This is the Google Pixel 9, Google's base-level flagship phone. And there are a lot of pressure on this device because we're in the year of AI. Every single phone company is introducing their phones with AI now. I have been daily driving the Google Pixel 9 for a month now, and this is my review. Firstly, let's talk about the design. I know lots of people love the design language of the Google Pixel 7 and 8 and that it has a more iconic look to it. I personally like the adaptation to this kind of form factor that is very similar to the iPhones and Samsungs right now. I personally would argue that this still very much looks like a Pixel phone. This year we have matte aluminum edges and a glossy back. Now, I personally don't like glossy backs on my phone, but specifically for this color, I think it just handles fingerprints so well. Personally, for me, it doesn't pick up a lot of fingerprints, and I really like it. Alright, first up, let's talk about the display. Gosh, it's so bright and vibrant, I don't have any complaints here. Its 120Hz refresh rate makes scrolling buttery smooth, and paired with the stock Android's flowy animation, it's really enjoyable to use. The haptics on this phone is really solid, really satisfying and tight, I would say. Also, the buttons are really clicky on this year's phone for some reason. And one tiny thing I want to mention is the speakers on the bottom of the phone. Now, it's not bad or anything, it's actually pretty good compared to other mid-range Android phones or even flagship phones actually. But it just doesn't sound bassy enough or full enough.
What's his name then?
What I want to use is hollow, but then I don't want to downplay it because the speakers are actually pretty good. It's just not good enough compared to other phones like the iPhones. This year they improved the Fingerprint Scanner, and thank God, because the previous Pixel 7 and 8 used an optical fingerprint scanner and this is an ultrasonic one, so it's a lot more forgiving if your hands are wet. And I do realize it's a lot faster because it works hand in hand with the face unlock, so you basically get a guaranteed unlock every time you try to use your phone. I just wish you could immediately press down on it when the screen is off instead of tapping it and waking it up and then pressing it to unlock your phone. Just minor complaint, but it's okay. The battery life is good. It's good. I usually leave my house at 100% and I reach home at about 20 to 30%. And it's impressive because I use it at 120Hz and I usually on my brightness to about 90 to 100%, almost full brightness all the time. And I don't turn on any low power mode, so I'm basically using it at full force all the time. This year, the main wide angle camera is 50 megapixels. That's actually a lot. And then the ultra wide one is at 48 megapixels and the selfie camera is 10.5 megapixels. Now, the selfie camera one is not at 48 megapixels like the Pro models, but it's still fairly decent. I personally find the skin tones on selfies to be a little bit unnatural, like it feels a little bit more black and shadowy rather than flattering on the skin. I don't know if the Pro models have the same color signs, but I have to get my hands on that to try it out. Okay, as for the main camera and the ultra-wide camera, the color rendition is actually pretty good and there is a fair amount of detail due to the megapixel count. So the photos are sharp, very vibrant, very punchy. There are a lot of high dynamic range moments where I feel like it handles it very well, and it has this, I wouldn't say over-processed, but it has a more vibrant look to it, unlike iPhones where it has a more flat, natural, raw-looking look to it. So once you snap a photo, it's good to go on Instagram. That's what I feel about these cameras. Of course, Google is constantly tuning their colors, but for now, yes, pleasing images and I like it. Oh, now you can also reimagine photos on Pixel 9. It works like Photoshop's generative fill. Photoshop generative fill is where you can either expand your images, add different elements to your scene, or even remove different elements in your scene. And that is honestly one of the best features to ever exist on a smartphone. Because now I don't have to send my images to my MacBook, edit it on Photoshop, and then bring it back into my phone. I could do it all on my phone, and the crazy part is that it actually works pretty well. Select the subject, in this case I want to select the background, and instead of having these dull looking leaves, I can turn it into a cherry blossom. And if you look at the images, it looks pretty good. There's also a new Add Me feature where you basically take a photo of a friend, and afterwards you switch positions with your friend, so your friend takes a photo of you, and then AI would just blend these two images together, giving you this final image as if a third person took it for you. Now, it is a little bit gimmicky, I would say, but I think time would really tell whether people will actually use this feature or just end up taking a 0.5 wide angle selfie instead. In fact, here's a suggestion for mobile phone companies: give us an ultra wide selfie camera. I think a lot of people would love taking 0.5 wide angled selfies. But the video on this, now I love taking videos on my phone because I mean, I am a filmmaker, I am a content content creator, so videos are very important for me. And here are some things that I like and dislike. I like that you can shoot up to 4K 60 frames per second, and the stabilization here is very good. There's even this locked stabilization mode where if you stand really still, it looks as if your phone is on a tripod. Now it does crop in a lot, so just take note. You can shoot 10-bit video, but it doesn't shoot in a locked flat profile unlike the iPhone 15 Pros, so it doesn't give me as much range to color grade in editing, but it is still a nice feature to have. I personally just tend to use the regular mode instead of this 10-bit mode. And since the colors are relatively mild and pleasing, I tend to just throw on a nice filter and have very good video to upload on Instagram. Now, Google literally makes Android, so I find it a little bit weird that they shipped it with Android 14 instead of this year's Android 15. It just doesn't make sense to me. Just a minor quirk. And the software experience on this is good. The new Tensor G4 chips are excellent, but it's just a tiny bit behind when loading simple tasks. The phone itself operates very smooth, and the processing power is great and all, but it's simple optimization that it lacks. Photos take a hair of a second longer to load to its full resolution, and even messages tend to load slightly slower. It's a $1,000 phone, I'm allowed to complain about this. It is a flagship phone, and it's a flagship processor inside this phone, so I'm just not really sure why things take a slight hair of a second longer to load. Okay, now let's talk about Gemini. Google keeps talking about Gemini this launch, and for good reason. There's a lot of pressure for this tiny box to be as useful as possible. You can now ask Gemini to create images like these. Give me a picture of a pink dragon breathing out fire while holding a taco.
Sure, here is a picture of a pink dragon breathing out fire while holding a taco.
Or simply use it like how you would use ChatGPT to rewrite emails and ask for advice. Now it's actually pretty useful, but I think the minor gripe I have with this is that it tends to not work all the time. I'm not sure how much of it is software and Google's optimization, or how much of it is actually my internet connection. There were times where I used it and it just stopped working on me, and like my whole entire conversation just disappeared. Now there are a few things that I want to talk about. I want to talk about the battery life of the phone, and it stopped working.
Here are some key points to consider for your
I do think that Google needs to optimize this a little bit more, but for now, when it works, it's actually pretty useful. It's like a ChatGPT sort of thing built into your phone. I think a lot of people would love something like this. You can simply press down and hold to talk to it like how you're using Google Assistant, or you can open a full chat mode where you can just type and ask questions. Okay, overall, this phone is amazing. It's the perfect size and is so satisfying to hold. The new Gemini features are great, and I think it's the best entry-level phone for anybody who is considering getting a Pixel. And because of all the new AI features this year, I do think that it is worth upgrading, even if you're at a Pixel 8. I do think Google made a really good phone this year, and if there's a default Android phone, I would give the crown to either the S24s or the Google Pixel 9. Thank you for watching this video, and this is DDT signing off.